Welcome to episode 726 of Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, here again tonight with Jen, the Arcane Observer, the co-host of Salsido Paranormal. And we are talking about alien abductions and similarities between other abductions from other beings, basically, is the idea here. And I know usually I go through an introduction. We will save that for another time. But all links can be found in the episode description as well. So that's all links for myself and for Mike of Trouble Minds Radio and for Jen, the Arcane Observer. All those are in every episode description. So, and then of course I'll share the episode. I'll share the links to the articles in the episode description as well. So, thank you all for being here and listening again. And let's welcome Jen back onto the show. Thank you again, Jen, for being here.
Hey, James. Good to be here.
Yeah, this has been it's been good so far, and I have a couple articles here. I thought we'd sort of I bring up at least one of them here, and there's this one that talks about the idea of alien abductions in the past, and they mentioned the whole there's a debate, I guess, between a lot of people about whether alien abductions in the past were really aliens or they were other beings. So they mentioned here in this article, I'm looking at, it's called Alien Docs, ALINDOCS.com. And the title of the article is Ancient Alien Abductions, the Theories and Explanations. And so this does have sort of skeptical viewpoints on what they may be as well. But basically the idea here is that in the past, other beings from other places, and does mention either extraterrestrial or other dimensional, interdimensional, have come here throughout time and taken people for varying amounts of time. And these reports of these things have been either spoken of or written down or sort of depicted in various artwork throughout time. That's always been a fascinating thing to me, is this idea, and I don't think anyone knows for sure if it's how accurate this idea is, but all these ancient drawings and sketches and paintings and carvings of things that look an awful lot like either technology and or other beings that that these people say they've encountered throughout time. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that, Jen.
Those, the pictographs and the petroglyphs and everything that they have found, which are everywhere. I mean, they're depicting the same thing. So that is a whole nother topic, I think. But it looks like the same thing that we see in a lot of our nuclear fusion programs and things like that for that sort of technology, from what I understand. I think it has to do with some type of celestial event. It's what seems to be pointing to. I can think of, I mean, I haven't thought about it enough, I guess, to think of something else with it. You know, another idea too about it's even along with the abduction theory is the MyLabs theory. Have you heard of that?
Yes, and sometimes I wonder if what I experienced was some version of that as well.
Okay.
Of course, we cover my experience in last weekend's shows. But yeah, I've wondered if maybe what I experienced was related to that as well. I don't know for sure, obviously, but it seems like a possibility. I don't know what you think about that as well.
I do. See no reason why it couldn't have been a possibility. I mean, at least something to consider. The whole concept behind it of that some secret, not even necessarily part of the government. It could be a completely separate entity from the government, technically, but has infiltrated into those positions of influence, in particular into the military. And I've always been really fascinated with that. I've done some interviews with people who supposedly had experience with these rituals in the military, and they say these stories that they have to tell about their experiences in certain aspects of the military, that there was a sort of an occult atmosphere in it. And that doesn't surprise me at all. And then as far as at all, because of the nature of warfare and the idea of mass human sacrifice, it doesn't surprise me at all. There could be a link, especially since all the symbolism is there for the willingness of it, the willing participant. Or even some cases, the unwilling participant who then becomes so engulfed in it. Even that is a type of food for some type of entity. But when it comes to the MyLabs, where they're intentionally doing those, the whole concept of doing mind control experimentation secretly on the masses, or at least some demographic of the masses, to try to understand or to communicate with some cyclical or dimensional beings. The idea of even the MK Ultra programs, to try to create, they're trying to create like a secret super soldier program is the idea. But we don't know what that even have to do with. I know it's very interesting. That's a huge idea. I mean, really, if we were to talk about that, just that it could be a MyLabs situation. Not in every case, obviously not. But that's a strange aspect. So there seems to be that's important. Why do you think, in your mind, that there might have been sort of a, or where did you hear about MyLabs, and why do you think it could have, you felt like it was kind of like that, or that your experience was similar?
Yeah, I've just heard of it through different shows. We all listen to and or watch so many shows on so many subjects related to anomalous things, paranormal, supernatural things. I've heard of it in different podcasts, basically, over the years. The only reason I wonder if my experiences like that is just because everything was. First of all, I didn't see any aliens, so to speak. I saw blurs. They were just gray blurs around me. Also, with the way that I'm guessing. I mean, I know we've heard senses can be manipulated to perceive different things. I don't know. I just always figure the things that I experienced, they were strange, but nothing that people couldn't recreate. I think, and that's an interesting thing. I wonder too with that, whether we talk about people or other beings. I wonder how far that idea of other groups of other beings or other types of hominids or any creatures at all, how far back we go in time to have similar experiences where people are sort of taken by a group of they don't even know what or who, and have this weird experience and then released again. And again, the reasons for that, I don't know. Could be ritualistic, could be experiments, could be both. I don't know, but I wonder how far back that's whole sort of idea of it not being aliens from outer space. I wonder how far back that goes, and I feel like it can go quite a ways back, really.
Yeah, I wish we knew, but I mean, we have there's been so much covered up with history in general, the way that they have wiped the slate so many times. They give excuses that there was just an oral history being kept. And then some of the languages, too, they still cannot decipher them. Like, there are many different, I think it's Easter Island. The writings on the, I can't remember what kind of wood they carved it into, but it's basically like petroglyphs. And they still can't decipher them at all. But the fact that they made all of those statues there and the way that they did so. But back to just the abduction point. Why are they doing it? Like, why? We both know that you would never take somebody against their will unless they were a prisoner. Unless they were, you don't just take something unless you thought of it as a lesser species in need of your care, or because you could. We see it with animals. People do it with animals.
Right.
So that whole thing is a little unnerving. And people do it because, for various reasons. That's why My Labs is so appealing in this topic. But why another entity would be doing it, or another species would be taking people, psychically or otherwise, it seems nefarious, because it's especially in such a vulnerable state, and the fact that the people typically cannot move of their free will, and they're being taken to a place that they are unfamiliar with, and that time is different there, and movement is different because of that, so they can't even move the same way that they're used to. Or there could be some type of, in My Labs, where they are induced by some type of substance where they are unable to move as easily. But I mean, just the why is really, or why people continue to report this sort of experience. In the past, it made sense that it had to do with something with folklore or with religious connotations. But now, in the modern times, people have moved. They're no longer in rural environments. There's no ecstatic state. They're simply just sleeping in their beds, and they report being taken. And then being sometimes just returned, Some people report being returned literally out in the street in front of their house and not remembering how they got there.
Even I've heard of that with kids too, where they're in their house and they show back up outside their house, and the family has no idea how they got out of the house to begin with. And then so they're surprised to see them outside. To even realize, what's going on there. Sorry to interrupt you there, but that is amazing to me that can even. That's especially in cases where the doors are locked, or where it doesn't seem like it would be easy for anyone to just fake it, to especially a kid that's just sleeping in their bed. But the other thing I wanted to get to also, though, is the reports of abductions while people are awake on the road. Going back to that whole roads topic we had a while ago, those are wild to me as well, where they time seems to go differently for a while, and they'll sort of have this experience and then sort of go unconscious or go to sleep and then wake up, and then they're back on the road. And sometimes they're driving the wrong way. Sometimes they're going the right way, but they're way far ahead of where they were. That whole other aspect of that is really weird too, because that's a lot of I don't know, that's a lot of staging or arranging to get everything just to appear the way whoever it is wants it to.
Yes, and for what?
Right.
Like in the case even Betty and Barney Hill, the notorious case of Betty Barney Hill, they report the strangest things. She came back with a pink powder on her dress. No one knows. She doesn't know. And under hypnosis, the story that they tell, they sound terrified. She really does sound genuinely afraid if you listen to that footage. And they basically just find themselves completely disconnected from where they at first notice, just these subtle changes in time and the way that everything looked. And then it goes from there, but it seems to have a human aspect to it. But then what they encounter is not human, and so at first you would think, I don't know, it's just the why. It seems for no reason, but in those cases it does remind me of a My Labs situation, but who and for what, of the general population. But there are these ideas that some of these, I don't know if we would connect it to, if we were to accept that they're all cults, that even our own government is a type of cult, the whole society conspiracy to try to rule over large amounts of people, it does look like it's all a cult, instead of, in a way.
Right.
But there's something beyond that. If there's a conflicting, just what is the motive of doing it, is really confusing.
It is.
With other species.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, with other species, yeah. I that's the other thing too with me is I've heard the Betty and Barney Hill case and other cases explained away because they had contact with like people involved in the government afterwards. But to me, I mean, if we consider that there was anything else going on there paranormal, then why wouldn't the government want to know what's going on? And maybe even to control the narrative there after the fact. So to me, that the sort of the people that they came in contact with after the fact, to me, that doesn't automatically mean that they didn't experience what they thought they did. And especially in cases, not so much that one, but the other aspect of all these, some of these abduction cases that always blows my mind is when you hear reports of people who see other people during their experience, and then they are looking into researching these things, and then they see someone else that they remember from an experience on another show, or they hear about them and they look them up and they remember being with this other person. And it's people that had no connection before the event that now have this connection because of something that they both experienced, where they saw each other. And whether that's, again, I have no idea if that's again a psychic consciousness aspect of all that, where they are in the same place in this another realm or another level of reality. I don't know, but that to me just it blows my mind, because that hints at it being more than just any regular people doing this. If that kind of thing is happening.
Okay, it makes a lot of sense. That what if there's a collaboration going on? Like, say there are these entities that are interested in abducting civilians for some purpose, but it is overseen in some direction by certain military or certain militaristic. Military wouldn't have to do with it, but I mean some type of organization.
Right. Yeah.
Of individuals are in collaboration with some other type of entities to assist or to direct events that keep it concealed from the rest of the civilian world. So I could see a collaboration occurring there, possibly. There could be a conspiracy of collaboration with these entities, and people have talked about that. So have they not? I mean, I think I've heard about them talking about that there were deals made with these entities, so you could only take so many people. There is a conspiracy floating around like that. That would make a lot of sense.
I think that even goes back to the Phil Schneider thing, the thing that we talked about last time. His experience with the base, that Dulce base thing, that whole situation, where he said there was deals that were arrangements that were made, and then things fell apart. And you hear that as well in other people's experiences too, where they say they've been involved in different levels of the government or military, and where there was an arrangement. Yeah, the Eisenhower story. Matt's Hall in the chat adds that. That's what I was thinking of. Where there was an arrangement that was made on either one or various levels of the government, but then things changed and things started happening, and now there's conflict. But also there could still be. I mean, if you think about government, it's not just one person or one objective for all the people that work in a government, any government. There's always going to be groups and varying agendas within any large group of people, really. Doesn't have to be government, can be a company, can be whatever. So yeah, that makes sense as well.
Yes, it does. It reminds me too of when you think about the priesthoods in these ancient religions and going forward, or belief systems, or just cults from the ancient world. There was always this mediary system, basically a government, an order over the people, and there were these intermediary priesthoods that would commune with these entities, and they would set up these different. I think that they basically worked as a sort of conduit of the connection between the people and these entities. I mean, that's pretty obvious, I guess. But what if it's a continuance of that? And there's actually these cover belief systems and religions, but the actual faith is still continuing not the faith, but the continuance of the relationship, an authentic relationship between humanity and these entities. And now it's not necessarily through the religious systems, or maybe it's combined with it, but it's at this governmental level we're talking about, or this secret organization imitating government systems, or perhaps just blending in, because it would make a lot of sense that they would still be a part of the government systems to initiate this exchange of discipleship or sacrifices, or however you want to explain it, between those entities and the civilian population. They're basically the go-between and keeping a sort of order with it. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it makes me think of the series of shows we did a while ago now, I don't know, a year or two ago, on festivals and carnivals, and how those were, they almost seem, now I think about it when we're talking about this, they seem like the more open and public version of that kind of gathering all this energy from so many people and giving it to whatever figures they're taught to, or they are suggested, that are suggested to them, that they should give energy, or prayers or thoughts or whatever, their love, or any number of things, and basically themselves to these various beings that are called deities and or gods or angels, or there's so many different names for and so many different places that do this for so many different figures throughout the past. And that just, to me, that gets back to this idea of, how do we always know what is what, especially going further back in the past, as far as what these beings are, these entities are. How many were there? I mean, how many had different names, but there was the same being? All those questions that we've talked about before. And yeah, it seems like it all connects back to this as well. We have maybe about maybe a little over a minute left, and but go ahead with whatever you think about that, Jen.
Like the Bacchanalia, the carnival concept, the Bacchanalia. Yeah, this ancient practice of that. Well, they would just be. It appeared to be just celebrating a revelry, but then, as it would progress, they would become ecstatic, and they would become not quite themselves. The people would, as a mass. And you've seen this at You've seen this at big festivals where people get really caught up in it, and then something happens, and it's kind of explained away as just being, well, it was rowdy, and I'm kind of making light of it. But in the Bacchanalia, it was actually this rapturous experience that would go, it would not be acceptable by today's standards at all, the end result sometimes, and the sacrifice of what would happen. But yes, it's something interesting about, I think that humans are in alliance, or at least some humans are in alliance with some other ruling aspect of these entities. And then there are some rogue entities, though, that have relationship with humans too. I think the stories of people experiencing it in rural environments, as they always have, or in any environment whatsoever, walking down the road or down the street or driving, they have this experience. But it makes sense. It follows. Thank you for having me, James. What are your thoughts?
No problem. Yeah, thank you for being here. And yeah, we are out of time. These shows always go by so quickly. But thank you for being here, Jen, and we'll talk next time. And thank you all again for listening in, and we'll be back next time with more. My next shows will be True Paranormal Stories on the Web. I'm calling them experiences shows now, so that'll be the next episode. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.